Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Shcha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Mrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Yadvaitam Brahmopanishadi Tadapyasya Tanubha Yatmantaryami Purushaiti Yaswamsa Vibhava Sareshwarya Purnayaya Bhagavan Saswayamayam Na Chaitanyaj Krishnaj Jagati Param Tattva Paramiha Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Hladini Shakti Rashmad Ekatmanavapi Bhuvipura Deha Bhedam Gatautav Chaitanakyam Prakatamaduna Tatvayam Chaikyam Aptam Radha Bhava Dyuti Shvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam Anarpita Charinchirat Karunayavatirna Kalau Samarpaitu Munato Jvalarasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratuva Shachinandana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Everyone together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Again. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Once more. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. And Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda and Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Nityananda Ram Ji Ki Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaud Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. So today is the auspicious appearance day of Nityananda. If you remember on the altar, Mother Panchadatta was explaining, and I was explaining a little on the appearance of Advaita Acharya. When we look at the deities, everybody, most people who come to the temple, especially if you come from a Hindu background, you know who Radha and Krishna are. You know, that is ingrained in us. You know, Radha, Krishna, Sita, Ram, Lakshmi, etc. But you see two other people there and you say, who is it? So this is Lord Chaitanya on the altar is on our right, and to his left is Nityananda. So, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? One of the mantras I was chanting, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes, Yadvaitam Brahmopanishadi, that non-dual Brahman, which is sought after by the study of the Upanishads, Yadvaitam Brahmopanishadi Tadapyasya Tanubha. Your Atmantaryami Purushaiti, that Antaryami, Paramatma, he is just a Angsa, Swangsa Tanubha. And then he goes on to say, but so therefore who is like Chaitanya? Because he says this Brahman is just his effulgence, Tadapyasya Tanubha. He says Paramatma is just is Angsa, his plenary portion. Then he says, Na Chaitanyaj Krishna Jagati Param Tattva Paramiha. That this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Krishna himself. He is not an incarnation, he is not an expansion, he is Krishna himself. Na Chaitanyaj Krishna Jagati Sareshwarya Purna Yahiha Bhagavan Asa Swayamayam. He is Sad Aishwarya Purna. He is the complete manifestation of the absolute truth. He is not God. He is the absolute truth. Srila Prabhupada in the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, he gives this distinction that there may be many gods, but Krishna is distinguished from them all because he is the absolute truth. Srila Prabhupada once, he was interviewing some devotees for initiation, maybe some were first and second initiation, something like that. And so one of the devotees, they brought them in, presented them to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada asked them, so who is Krishna? And the devotee was very happy, because this was the only question on the test, and he knew this answer. So when Srila Prabhupada asked him, who is Krishna? He said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada smiled, yes, you can be initiated. And then the other devotee who was there, Srila Prabhupada asked him, who is Lord Chaitanya? And the devotee thought, well, he is inside also. So he said, Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya is the most merciful incarnation of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, he is not an incarnation, he is Krishna himself. Then he said, you can also be initiated. So that is who Lord Chaitanya is. So who is Nityananda? Nityananda is Balaram. It is described that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Balaram is his second body. You know, like sometimes we think, well, or we hear, well, you know, who is Krishna? He is God. Who is Balaram? He is also God. Well, you know, the thing with Vaishnava culture, the Mayavadis, they want to reduce the Lord to nothing. They want to relegate the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead into nothing. You may hear statements sometimes like, we are all God. I went to one satsang once and I heard this being sung in the congregation, like by the devotees. They were actually singing it. I am God, you are God, we are God, playing little dolak and so on. You know, I was perplexed, to say the least, when I heard that. And there are many philosophies like that. But you know what the thing is? When everybody is God, nobody is God. When everybody is God, nobody is God. That has been reduced into nothing. The category doesn't make sense. But as Vaishnavas, we do not say that God has no form. We say that God has all forms, all relationships, all varieties that we can even imagine, and all varieties that we cannot imagine. That is within the absolute truth, the realm of the absolute truth. And somebody might say, but I don't understand that. Or you say, yes, that is because He's God. He cannot be understood. So sometimes people try to box God in. He can only be this. He cannot be that. Vaishnavas say, no, He is this and that also. There is no limit. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udakshate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. The Supreme Personality of God is perfect and complete. And He expands many forms for the purpose of His own enjoyment. One designation of the Supreme Lord is Raso Vaisaha. He is the connoisseur of all varieties of pleasure. This is the definition of the Supreme Lord given by Srila Rupa Goswami in designating what is the subject matter of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Akila Rasamrita Murtihi. That person, that supreme sublime person, who is the connoisseur of all varieties of enjoyment, and for whom all varieties of enjoyment exist as His servant. And therefore, to enjoy, the Lord has unlimited forms. And the first of those forms is Balaram. I was also making this point on the appearance there of Advaita Acharya. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he distinguishes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita between the different personalities. He says that out of these 5 personalities of the Pancha Tattva, there's Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, and Srivas Thakur. He said there's 2 Prabhus and 1 Mahaprabhu. He says that Lord Chaitanya, he is Krishna himself, therefore he is Mahaprabhu. He is the big Prabhu. Lord Nityananda, he is Prabhu, Supreme Lord. But the interesting thing is that even though he is in the category of the Supreme Lord, he exists as the prime servant of Krishna. And so every time Krishna appears, Balaram is always there. They are inseparable. The place where Krishna performs his pastimes is a manifestation of Balaram. The Dham, Vrindavan, Navadvip, Mayapur, they are all manifestations of Balaram. The articles that are used for the service of Krishna are all manifestations of Balaram. And affectionately, the Mridanga we also call Balaram. In fact, when Srila Prabhupada had his devotees manufacture, innovate the Mridanga drum, which is originally made of clay, from fiberglass, so it can be more durable for going out regularly in Sankirtan and so on. He called it Balaram. This is Balaram. Sometimes once I heard somebody told the Mridanga player, you have to come beat the drum. And then somebody said, no, you cannot beat Balaram. You have to play Mridanga, you don't beat Mridanga. The person was saying that. So this is the nature of Balaram. Balaram exists as the primary servant of Krishna. And therefore, when Lord Chaitanya appears, Balaram also appears as Nityananda. So, in the first 14 verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in these Hare Krishna. Yeah, Hare Krishna. He delineates several things. The first two verses, he pays obeisances in general, first to his spiritual master, then to Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. Then he describes who Lord Chaitanya is. He is the Supreme Lord. He gives the external and the internal reasons for Lord Chaitanya appearing in this world. Then he goes on to glorify in 5 verses Lord Nityananda. And then in the next 2 verses, 12 and 13, he glorifies Advaita Acharya, and in the 14th verse, he glorifies the Panchatattva together. And then the next 6 chapters, he gives explanations of those 14 verses. For the remainder of the first chapter and the next second up to the 7th chapter, he gives explanations of the first 14 verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, what I'll do is I'll read those verses where he glorifies Nityananda, and then we'll speak a little bit about some of the pastimes of Nityananda. Something that stood out to me when I was sort of meditating on the appearance of Lord Nityananda. So text 7. Sankarshana karanato yashai Garbhodashai sapayodishai Sheshascha yasyamsa kalasanitya Dandakya Ramaha Sharanam Mamastu. May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Shankarshan, Sheshnag, and the Vishnus who lie on the Karana, Garbha, and ocean of milk are his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions. Mayati te vyapi Vaikuntha loke Purnaishwarye Shri Chaturvyuha madhye Rupam yasyod bhati Shankarshanakyam Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam prapadye. I surrender unto the lotus feet of Shri Nityananda Ram, who is known as Shankarshan in the midst of the Chaturvyuha, consisting of Vasudev, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. He possesses full opulences and resides in Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation. Maya Bharta Jananda Sangastrayangaha Shete Sakshat Karanabdodi Madhye Yasyaikamshaha Shri Puman Adi Devas Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Nityananda Ram, whose partial representation called Karanodakshai Vishnu, lying on the Karana ocean, is the original Purusha, the master of the illusory energy and the shelter of all the universes. Yasyam Shamshaha Srila Garbhodashai Yanyabhyajam Loka Sanghatanalam Loka Shrashtuhu Sutika Dhamadatus Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Shri Nityananda Ram, a partial part of whom is Garbhodakashai Vishnu. From the navel of Garbhodakashai Vishnu sprouts the lotus that is the birthplace of Brahma, the engineer of the universe. The stem of that lotus is the resting place for the multitude of planets. And the final verse. Yasyam Shamshaya Paramat Kilanam Poshta Vishnur Bhati Dhurdhabdishayi Shauni Bhartayat Kala Sopyanantas Tam Sri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose secondary part is the Vishnu lying in the ocean of milk. That Kshira Dakshai Vishnu is the super soul of all living entities and the maintainer of all universes. Sheshnag is his further subpart. Shri Nityananda Ram ki. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he gives 5 verses, which out of 14 is quite a lot. It's about almost 40% of the verses, like 37% somewhere there about, if my back of the notepad maths is correct, which is a lot. It seems he was quite partial to Lord Nityananda, and it's evident in his writing. And later on, in one of the later chapters of the Adi Leela, he expresses why he has that partiality to Lord Nityananda. He describes how Lord Nityananda gave very special mercy to him. And when you read that chapter, I find somehow, like listening to, especially if you listen to the Bengali, then you read Srila Prabhupada's translation, I find that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's words, it comes through with a lot of feeling. He's not just saying this formally to glorify Nityananda, but you actually feel, he's expressing something that he doesn't want to express. It's something very private, sort of like a personal experience he had with Lord Nityananda. And he wants to glorify Lord Nityananda, but he's sort of very shy to do it. And it's coming through with a lot of feeling when he's describing what happened. So he describes that he went to his brother's place. There was a function that was going on, and there was a pujari who came there, and the pujari, somehow or the other, he accepted Lord Chaitanya, but he didn't have too much regard for Lord Nityananda. And as it happened, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami became very upset by this. How did this manifest? This partiality to Lord Chaitanya and indifference to Lord Nityananda. A very great intimate devotee of Nityananda came to that place. His name was Miniketana Ramdas. And he was dressed like a cowherd boy. Lord Nityananda, he is in the mood of a cowherd boy. Very, sometimes seemingly frivolous. They dress with turbans in their head, and they have earrings, they have sticks, and they go around like that. And so, when this Miniketana Ramadas arrived there, this pujari disrespected him. He was disrespectful. And it was revealed that the source of that disrespect was he didn't have much regard for Lord Nityananda, very high regard for Lord Chaitanya, but very little regard, scant courtesy for Lord Nityananda. And as a result of that, he was chastised. He was chastised. How can you accept one and not accept the other? It is accepting, half a hen. the logic of half a hen. Yeah, this is called Arda Kukita Nyai in the Bengali language. And there is different nyayas. One of the I forget the sound. One of the scorpion taking birth from the rice. The few. So this one is called the logic of half a hen. So what is the story? Like if you have a hen, then what is the value of a hen? It produces eggs, right? But in order to get the eggs from one side, you have to put food from the other side. So to put the food from one side, it costs you some money. So if you think, well, I could eliminate the head side, which I have to put the food, and only keep the back side from which I get the egg, then this is good business for me. But that logic is faulty. Because if you eliminate one, your another part dies also, simultaneously. So this is called the logic of half a hen. Arda Kukita Nyai. So he was chastised like this. You have no intelligence. How can you accept Lord Chaitanya but at the same time don't accept Lord Nityananda and by extension be offensive to one of his associates? And he chastised. And Krishnadas Kaviraj left that place. He left that place. And he went home. This was in a village called Naihati in Bengal. And he went to sleep. And he got a dream. And he describes Naihati Nikate Janmatpura Namagram. He says in that village of Naihati, which is near Janmatapur, he says Lord Nityananda appeared to me in a dream. And you could tell, like when he starts from this verse, like you could almost feel what Krishnadas Kaviraj is feeling. From this, he begins to describe his personal darshan of Nityananda. And he says that, and he begins to describe Lord Nityananda. He was bluish in complexion. He had a turban. He was wearing a blue dhoti. He had a huge, beautiful garland of flowers coming all the way down to his knees. And the flowers were so fragrant, as was the very fragrance that was coming out of the body of Nityananda, that there were bees buzzing around the Lord, around the garlands and around the Lord. And he said, and then he goes on to say that the Lord told him, get up, get up. He woke him up from offering obeisances. And he instructed him that you should go to Vrindavan. You should go to Vrindavan. So he received the personal instruction from Nityananda to go to Vrindavan. And so Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's sleep broke and he woke up. When he realized what had happened, he was in so much joy, so much ecstasy. He immediately went to Vrindavan. Immediately, he went to Vrindavan. And there, he had the association of Raghunath Das Goswami and the other devotees who had settled in Vrindavan, Rupa Sanatana and others. And in due course of time, they told him that you should compose this Chaitanya Charitamrita. You should compose this Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he was already very old person. And he thought there's no way I could complete this task. It's beyond me. It is beyond me to complete this task of writing, composing this Chaitanya Charitamrita. But nonetheless, he takes this order very seriously and he goes to all the different personalities in Vrindavan and begs their mercy. You please bless me that I could write this Chaitanya Charitamrita. And you could see in different points of his writing, he goes back and he pays homage to Nityananda. For example, in the first verse of the 5th chapter, where he begins to describe the glories of Nityananda Balaram, the very first verse he says that, let me offer my obeisances to Sri Nityananda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose opulence is wonderful and unlimited. He says, by his will, even a fool can understand his identity. So he goes on to describe the glories of Lord Nityananda, how he expands, how he serves Krishna in so many rasas. Now he also appears as Nityananda. This Balaram appears as Nityananda. Lord Nityananda is the counterpart to Lord Chaitanya. One very interesting thing is that even though Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda are considered together, their personalities, the way they interact with their devotees, the way they interact with others for the purpose of spreading the Sankirtan movement is quite different. I was listening to one lecture by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, a series of lectures he gave, and he mentions how Lord Nityananda, he compliments Lord Chaitanya, and he gives some interesting ways how Lord Nityananda compliments Lord Chaitanya, and I found it quite interesting. He makes the point that there's two things that happens. When something is started, then there has to be an adherence to the roots. There has to be an adherence to the roots, the source of the tradition. In this case, the source of our tradition is Srimad Bhagavatam, and this was made manifest by Lord Chaitanya. And he says, as we go through years past the establishment of a tradition, then one has to exercise fidelity or faithfulness to the core values that came about at the start of the thing. Else, if that drifts away, then the thing disintegrates. If we lose our core value, what do we stand for as followers of Lord Chaitanya, as followers of Srila Prabhupada? If we lose that fidelity, then we begin to disintegrate as a society. Forget society, we can speak on an individual basis. But at the same time, for us to remain relevant as time goes on, not only must there be fidelity, there must also be flexibility. In that the way the tradition was practiced at the time of its founding, if it doesn't make the necessary adjustments in the course of time, what happens is it also becomes irrelevant. And we could see this happen just in the just over 500 years of from the time Lord Chaitanya manifested on this planet to today. There were a lot of changes that were made. And, one example is that the society of Gaudiya Vaishnavas were largely mendicant renunciants who were Babajis, living in a secluded place, performing solitary bhajan. But when Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta took the reins, as it were, of the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya, the focus of it changed. Between Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it changed from solitary bhajan to one of giving Krishna to others. It started with Bhaktivinoda Thakur and went on with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur with almost a vengeance. The way Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would go about sharing in such innovative ways. accepting things which other groups were doing that were successful. He accepted in his own group and also became successful. If something is working for other people, it could work for us too. So he demonstrated that flexible. I got a simple example, right? Bhaktisiddhanta wanted a governing body to manage the preaching affairs of his organization, which he called the Gaudiya Math. Right? He called it the GBC also. The GBC was fashioned off the Indian railway system, which the British were in charge of. So it's an innovation, it's a flexibility. So when you look at Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, you see these two things in these two personalities. You see Lord Chaitanya, who is very strict as a sannyasi, very strict in how he deals with his own disciples, very strict in how he corrects others when they step out of line. But you see Nityananda, very flexible. Very flexible. And therefore, if we want to approach Lord Chaitanya, to put it in simple language, even though Lord Chaitanya, as is often said, the most munificent incarnation of the Lord, he's so merciful, he's so magnanimous, you had to come damn good. You have to come good. But Lord Nityananda, he gives us a chance. And there's a very beautiful pastime that demonstrates this. And if we were to speak on this pastime, this could be 4, 5, 6 hours just to go through the details. And that is a pastime we often speak on the appearance of Lord Nityananda. It's a pastime we often speak around this time, and that is the deliverance of Jagai and Madai. Nityananda, he thought, let me go to those who least deserve, by the rigidity of the Vedic system, who least deserve the mercy of the Lord by their own behavior. Let me make the mercy of the Lord available to these persons. And if these persons could be moved by the mercy of the Lord, then Lord Chaitanya's glory will be magnified. So he went. And what happened? The first time him and Haridas, they had to run away. Because they chased after them. These people were murderers. They were, for that time, these people were really bad. But even when I watch the state of the country and the world nowadays, I don't know if even, Jaga and Mada as bad as some of the fellas we have running around today. Like in those days, we had like two. One Jagai, one Madai. Two. And they were so notorious that they were mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat. But practically speaking, only 500 years have gone since then, and majority of the world population is Jaga and Madai. And I'll tell you quite frankly, I do exclude myself from that group. I'll tell you quite frankly. So Lord Nityananda, he targets these kinds of people. This is who he goes after. And so when he went back the second time, one of them hit him in his head with a pot, which they were drinking liquor. They hit him in his head. And what happened? His head was split. And he began to bleed profusely. And Lord Chaitanya came there. And Lord Chaitanya, this is Nityananda. This is his second half. Immediately called for his Sudarshan Chakra. I will kill them. Who this has perpetrated this act? They will die by my hands. I will kill them. And immediately summoned his Sudarshan Chakra. And then he saw he could not act. Lord Nityananda was preventing him. But no, He didn't come here for that. By the conventional rule, even of Shastra, someone who offends a Vaishnava should be put to death. This is one of the ways you deal with an offender of a Vaishnava. Put them to death. If you cannot kill them, when they blaspheme Vaishnavas, you cut their tongue out. Or you try to win them over by superior argument so they can know the error of their ways. If you can't do that, you can't kill them, you can't change them, you kill yourself. Or at least leave that place and never go back. Never associate with such people again. So Lord Chaitanya, by the rules of Shastra, was perfectly right to kill these men. No questions asked. Yet Nityananda was stopping them. He was stopping them. Don't kill them. You didn't come here for that. Imagine, and you could go and analyze this. What would have happened if Lord Chaitanya, who is described as the most merciful, killed them? Where's his mercy? That mercy is manifest in the form of Nityananda. The hope that we have as individuals to get strength to progress in our devotional service, to get strength to progress in our relationship with Lord Chaitanya, to get strength to progress in our relationship with Radha Krishna. It comes from the blessing of Nityananda. It comes from the blessing of Nityananda. And there's these two stories that I chose for this evening's short presentation are purposely chosen. How Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami got the mercy of Lord Nityananda. How did he get the mercy? Because he stood when someone was offending a Vaishnava. He stood his ground. The second was when Madai had offended Nityananda himself. Madai, on the instruction of Lord Chaitanya, begged forgiveness. They both begged forgiveness. And they were saved from the punishment of death and unlimited suffering by the mercy of Lord Nityananda. So a very simple way, in fact the most simple way, which is the most difficult thing for us to do, to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda and to nourish our spiritual growth, to nourish our spiritual development, is to not offend Vaishnavas, at the very least. At the very least. Srila Prabhupada, I remember seeing this on one devotee. He had a t-shirt, and the attribution on the t-shirt was Srila Prabhupada in New York was 1966 or 67 or something like that. And the t-shirt said, trying to find good qualities in others, like bees are attracted to honey. That was all it said behind one devotee's t-shirt, and then just Srila Prabhupada 1967, something like that. New York 1960, something like that. Try to find the good qualities in others, like bees are attracted to honey. Just yesterday or the day before, one of my dear friends from Vrindavan, he sent me a WhatsApp message, and immediately when he sent me, I knew where it came from. It was an extract of Srila Prabhupada's purport where he was speaking about the same thing, about not finding fault in devotees and like that. And I said, I knew who spoke that verse and I knew to whom. He was quoting the purport. I said, what is that? So I said, this is Sati speaking to her father Daksha in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And she says to Daksha that only a foolish person like you can find some fault in a personality so sublime as Lord Shiva, who has no enemies. And this exchange went on, and Srila Prabhupada, very beautiful purport. I think it's like the 4th chapter, 12th verse of the 4th canto, if you want that reference. 4.4.12, if memory serves me correctly. And you know what she did after? When she realized that her father was so offensive to a Vaishnava such as Lord Shiva. You know why she's called Sati, right? She, by her yogic fire from within, she cremated herself. She said, this body was produced by an offender of a Vaishnava like you. Therefore, I want no connection to this body. Day by day, and something I try to work on very hard in myself. The world is filled with people always finding fault in another person. Whether it's this political party finding fault with that political party, this philosophical group finding fault with that philosophical group, this group of Gaudiya Vaishnavas finding fault with that group of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We have enough of that to go around. We don't need more of that. There's enough. There's an excessive amount in the market. When there's an excess of something in the market, it is cheap and useless. Therefore, it floods the market. But something which is actually valuable is when we take the time. And I guarantee, if we look at anybody, not even a Vaishnava, could be the worst of all people, we will find something of value in that person. We'll find something of value. And the purification that comes in Kali Yuga is when we develop that consciousness to look for the good qualities in others. When we develop that type of consciousness, that we make the effort to find the good qualities in others, then the mercy of Lord Nityananda makes an effort to find us. It may sound as something very trivial, something very cheap, but it is something so sublime that if we practice it consistently, correct ourselves, and practice seeing the good qualities in others, especially Vaishnavas, then Nityananda's mercy would rain on us. Shri Nityananda Ram ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.